Everyone. Thank you for tuning in with me for MG Live. If you do not know me, my name is Maya Gatewood, and I thank you so much for taking a few minutes out of your evening to spend with me. My replay folks, you know how we do. I'm going to give 1 minute, 30 seconds to 1 minute for some live viewers to join me before I get started. But in the meantime, do me a favor. In the comments, write hashtag replay so that I know exactly when you are watching this, and I'll get a notification and be able to see who is tuning in with me. And also do me a favor, and if you wouldn't mind, please share this live so we can get as many eyeballs on this as possible. I would so appreciate it if you would share this to your platforms. Hello to all my live people. If you are joining me, drop me a comment, a shout out in the chat. Let me know you're in the building. Let me know you're here with me, and I will go ahead and get started in just 30 more seconds. I never take for granted that people know who I am. So really quickly, again, my name is Maya Gatewood. This is MG Live. It is my live web series where I discuss various topics, both professional and personal. I am a marketing manager at my 9 to 5. I'm also a freelance graphic designer, sort of transitioning into the consulting space. I am the creator of MDGTs, which stands for Impress Design and Graphics T-shirts. And hopefully you're following me on Instagram and on my website, which is mayagatewood.com, and you can find all of the things, including my blog and all of my merchandise there. I am formally educated as an artist. I have my bachelor's and my master's degree in fine arts. And so now that you know a little bit about me, let's go ahead and get started. So Maya, what the heck are we talking about tonight? I'm glad you asked. We are talking about work-life balance. Oh my gosh. So this is definitely a topic that we all have heard from some source, some article, some influencer, somewhere. You have heard about work-life balance. And I definitely have a few thoughts I want to share with you. I'm going to keep it concise because, I have my notes. You guys know I like to ramble, so I have my notes. So I'm going to keep this pretty short and sweet. So if you have like 10, 15 minutes of your night to spend with me, I just have a couple of points I wanted to share. And I also want to hear from you. So during this, please do utilize the chat. Drop any comments, any questions in there, and let's make this interactive and get some class participation. So I just came back from a trip this past weekend. And on this trip, let me back up a little bit. Work-life balance. I suck at work-life balance. I will say that I am better than I have been in years past. If you hear snoring, that is my dog Friday. He is having a great time over here on the floor snoring. So I have gotten better than I was in years past with work-life balance, but I still have a long way to go. So I was on this trip, and I had to consciously make a concerted effort to say, Maya, we are not checking emails, we are not looking at messages on Teams. So the bad thing is that I have these apps on my phone. I have the Outlook app, I have the Teams app, so I'm getting notifications and I'm having to turn off my brain. Nope, Maya, we're not looking at that, we're not answering that, gotta wait till we get back. And that was difficult for me because I'm the type of person, I don't like a lot of messages or emails in my inbox because I associate an email with an action item or with a task. And so if I see a lot of those, it just means I have a lot of work to do. So I like to kind of answer things or at least read things right away just to know kind of what's going on. So it was kind of hard for me to completely unplug this weekend, but I did it and it was great. It was a short trip, but it was a much needed break. And I realized on that trip that, I need to talk about this because I need to get better at this. And I'm sure that others either are really good at it and can share some tips with the rest of us, or you're in the same boat as me and you need to kind of get better at that. So I'm going to share a little transparent moment. I think this is a safe space, right? You're not going to judge me. I tend to focus focus on my career because I feel like I have more control in that area. So look, we know that you can't control it. No one can control anything but God, right? You're not in control of your life. You're not in control of anything. But what I will say is that I feel that I can put forth my best efforts and my energy, that directly affects the results or the product or the outcome, the end result that we get, right? And I have direct input into that. So I kind of am, calling that control. But I like being able to contribute directly to those outcomes and to those results, because there's a sense of professional pride that goes into that. There's a bar that I set for myself. It's probably an unrealistic bar, but it's a bar nonetheless. Trust me, if I make a mistake or if I don't hit the mark on something, there's probably nothing that anyone can say to me that I've not already said to myself. Because I have a certain standard of excellence that I like to operate under. And so I really enjoy what I do, right? And so if you enjoy what you do, it's nothing for me to answer an email while I'm on vacation or put in a little bit of extra time on a project, because you are kind of losing track of time because you're not like thinking about this as work, but you're just thinking about it as, your work, like the work, not work as in my job, but work as in my career, my purpose-driven activities. And so when I think about it in those terms, I kind of don't have an issue with it. But what happens is, although there's a comfort in that, what happens is it can lead to burnout, right? So you're you're spending all this time doing XYZ, and so you can burn out your energy, burn out your mental capacity, burn out your emotional capacity for people and things and situations. But also there can come a sense of overstimulation and an overwhelm, because you're so immersed in this that it can cause you to become overstimulated. And so I realized that I'm not great at balancing my work and my life dynamic, and those two ends of the spectrum. I don't manage them well. And I want to know from you, because I want some feedback. Give me some feedback in the chat. What balancing act are you doing right now? What balancing act are you playing in your life right now? Is it home? Is it family, friends? Is it work? Is it emotional intelligence, where you're having to kind of like stop yourself from going off on somebody because you're frustrated about a situation or somebody's being annoying? I don't know. Is it being okay with being single and still feeling fulfilled? Like, what balancing act are you playing right now? Go ahead and drop that in the chat and let's get some feedback going there. And then once you identify what the balancing act is, how are you balancing those things, right? So do you take annual vacations? Do you factor in rest each day or each week? I definitely want to do more of that. I wish I did more of that now. I wish I could just go take a nap in the middle of the day, because that would be amazing. But are you, getting up, stretching, go grabbing a cup of coffee, grabbing a cup of tea? Are you going out to, walk the dog or whatever? How are you implementing that balancing act after you've identified actually what it is? Are you scheduling fun activities? Are you scheduling, de-stressing activities like getting a massage, going to the spa? So actually, speaking of spa, I wanted to do this MG Live for a while, and I just didn't know if I would have enough content to fill like a substantial amount of time to do one, but I had an idea to do this MG Live on, is self-care overrated? And if you think that I should do an MG Live on this, give me a star in the comments so I'll know how everyone's feeling, take the temperature there. But I just kind of felt like, okay, at the beginning of the pandemic, and certainly at the height of the pandemic, self-care was like huge, right? Because everyone in the world was stressed out. Everyone was fearful. Everyone was anxious. Everyone was uncertain. We didn't know what was going on. You're hearing conflicting stories from news outlets. Some people are in home situations that they normally might have a reprieve from. You don't have that reprieve anymore, whether that's being around your kids 24/7 now, or having to, virtual school your kids in addition to you showing up to work virtually. Some people had to suffer through, mental and physical abuse, where you would have a little bit of a break from your abuser, a certain amount of hours a day, and now you can't get away from that person. Maybe you were kind of working through a challenging or a bad marriage. So a lot going on in the pandemic, right? And so self-care was huge. Everyone was like, you've got to take care of your mental well-being and your mental health, and definitely all for that. But then it started to turn into like people monetizing it and capitalizing off of it, and influencers selling products, and definitely an overuse of the things and activities that one would use to describe self-care. Like, I think someone, I don't remember where I heard this, but someone was saying that, sitting in their car alone is self-care, or taking themselves on a solo date is self-care. And I was just kind of like, giving that the side eye a little bit. But I actually am curious, like, for you, is self-care overrated? If it's not overrated for you, how do you do self-care? What do you do? What does that look like for you? And how do you use self-care as a tool to help you balance work and life? I think for me, even though I do think it is overrated, I think that there is great benefit in looking after yourself physically, emotionally, and mentally. And so doing those things really does help your psyche. And I'm all for that. So I think like a couple of things that I do. And by the way, I only have these epiphanies when I'm doing the things, and I'm just like, why don't I do this more often? So, I do my own pedicures and manicures, but when I do get my pedicures done professionally, I'm just sitting there and I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, why don't I do this all the time? You're sitting there in the massage chair, and, you're getting the feet scrubs and all the smell goods, and your feet are just being swirled in this, hot, warm water, and it's just, you can put on your earbuds and zone out to, your favorite tunes. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, this is so great. Why don't I do this more often? Another thing I think is traveling. Definitely traveling. So this past weekend, all this stuff is fresh in my mind because I'm coming off of this trip. But whenever I'm traveling, I'm like, I love traveling. So I did bite the travel bug when I was in college. I did two study abroad programs. One, I went to Italy for 7 weeks, and I went to Mexico for 3 weeks. And oh my God. First of all, Italy, trip of a lifetime, go. Please, just go. If you can imagine an art student, just, young woman, I went to an all woman art college. Just female power, girl power, you're chilling, eating amazing Italian cuisine. You're literally going in the countryside and just drawing all day and visiting museums and galleries and artwork that you've only seen in books. And I mean, it was just ridiculous. It was amazing. So I bit the travel bug then, and have done some other, international trips, like islands and things like that. Love cruises. I have not been on a cruise since the pandemic though. But highly recommend cruises, love them. And I want to start doing some more domestic travel. So I want to start going to some locales that I can sort of drive to easily and do more like little weekend getaways or dip offs, because I can do those more frequently, right? It's easier to save a few $100 than saving thousands and thousands of dollars to travel internationally. And so that's one of the things that I want to do, is be able to take those smaller trips more frequently, because it's just so beneficial to get out of your own 10-mile radius and your family, your friends, your coworkers that exist there, and perhaps it goes out a little bit wider because you're driving to work or church. But traveling helps you to gain perspective, try new things, meet new people, try different cuisines, experience new cultures. Like, I just highly recommend traveling. And it's really a different way to stimulate your mind, right? And so highly encourage that. So I guess those are a couple of things that I could consider for myself as self-care. So interested to hear what your things are. Hopefully you've been dropping them in the chat. go ahead and continue to do that. If you're coming in, we're dropping in the chat. What things do we do for self-care? Do you think self-care is overrated? Yes or no? And then if not, what things do you do? And how do you use self-care, if yes, to balance your work-life dynamic? For anyone who's coming in, joining me now. So a couple of other things that I do for work to help me mentally at work is I do my best to start winding down my day around 5:30 and definitely be logged off by 6. So 5, I start getting into the mindset like, okay, let's close out the emails that we want to close out tonight. Let's get the projects that we're working on to a certain point that we're comfortable, to continue and pick them up the next day. So that definitely helps me. So that way by 6 o'clock, I feel like I'm not abruptly just like stopping because of the time, but also that it's been a progression. So I can like close out my day in a more gradual way. So it's not like stressing me out about not being able to finish certain things. Also, on Friday afternoons, I block my calendar off from 12 to 5. So if you want to schedule a call with me, you have to do it before 12 o'clock. I do that so that I can have focus time, so I can have heads down time. Because if not, I'll just keep having calls. And it's especially helpful for me on the weeks when I have call heavy days. So on call heavy days, I could have 7-8 calls back to back to back when you might have like a little half an hour between to, shove some food down your throat and use the bathroom and stretch. But you can't get any work done. So I'm like, I can't do anything. So that heads down time on Friday allows me to kind of take inventory for the week that's passed, what things are outstanding, what things are open. Allows me to really work on those things, have some focus time, but also allows me to set up the week ahead. So thinking about, what things I have coming down the pike, what things can kind of spill over into the next week. And it just kind of sets me up and puts me in a good space to go into the weekend with a smooth transition and not sitting here worrying about work. So those are two things that have really helped me to balance work with my life, is gradually shutting my brain down. I'm the type of person who, I've got a lot going on up here in my mind. I've got ideas for brand stuff. I've got ideas for church stuff. I've got ideas for media stuff. I just have ideas going crazy right through my mind. So it's just kind of like, what strategies can I implement? What methods can I implement to kind of help me? And those are two of the things. So if you have any tips and tricks that you use, definitely go ahead and drop those in the chat. I have this saying that if I've, when I log off and I'm doing something, then I'm like, okay, I need to go do nothing now. And literally that could be me just sitting down on the couch and just zoning out, turning my brain off, decompressing from my work day and just relaxing, really. Because I'm someone who has, sometimes I have difficulty falling asleep because my mind is just racing. It's just going, thinking about all the things. And so that kind of helps me by just going and doing nothing, because I've done so much, mentally. I do a lot of writing at work. I do a lot of thinking. And I don't think people realize how much effort and energy thinking actually takes. I do a lot of strategizing, brainstorming, coming up with messaging, positioning. All that really means is how you should say certain things, wordsmithing things, how to market, go-to-market plans, things like that. And it takes a lot of thought. It takes a lot of thought. And so it can be mentally exhausting. And so when I take those moments to just go do nothing, it really, really helps me. And I hope that helps you too. So just like a couple of more things I want to share with you, and then I'm going to go ahead and end. But drop your comments in the chat if you're just joining us, or if you're getting an opportunity to do this now. What are your tips so that we can all get some ideas for what other people are doing to balance their work and their life? Okay, and I'm just going to leave you with this food for thought. all work and no play can lead to burnout, right? You've heard that saying, all work and no play makes whatever it is, Danny of Doughboy. But I say it leads to burnout. But on the converse of that, all play and no purpose can leave you feeling empty or doesn't allow for those real life commitments that you have to take care of. So you don't want to be all the way left or all the way right. Like, you want to be right in the middle, balancing both ends of that spectrum. So, leaving you with this final thought, what is that for you? What is that work? What is balancing that work and that life dynamic look like for you? Go ahead and drop that in the comments. I want to create a space of collaboration here, a space where people can drop some thoughts in and help each other, right? Because we're all in this together and we're learning from each other and we're growing together. So I definitely am looking for some tips and tricks. I hope I've shared a couple of things with you tonight that will be helpful to you as well. And yeah, that's really it. I thank you so much for taking these few minutes to spend with me out of your evening. And I have another MG Live coming in a couple of weeks. If it's not going to be next week, it's going to be the week after. I'm going to have your favorite special surprise guest. So make sure that you stay tuned to all of my channels so that you can get all of the announcements and things that will be coming out. But we're going to talk about a topic that is going to be very, very thought-provoking, and I think it's going to spark a lot of conversation. So make sure that you keep it locked right here.